Speaker.
Stuart Nash.
Thank you much, Mr. Speaker. Well, a couple of interesting speeches here I've just heard. I do rise to support this bill, but I would like to talk on 2 points, Mr. Speaker. But before I do, I'd like to comment on Heather Roy's speech. Well, the ACT solution to this is give people seeds and let them grow their own vegetables. That's wonderful. This is the party that talks about lowering taxes. This is the party that talks about empowering people. How do you take that solution to someone living on the fourth floor of an apartment block who's struggling to pay the bills and tell them, plant seeds, grow your own vegetables? Do it in the bathtub. You don't need a shower. Goodness me. The 2 points I'd like to mention, Mr. Speaker, is the first one. While I support this bill, it was the Maori Party who supported legislation in this House that increased GST on all food, including healthy food. You cannot say there is no politics in this bill, because that is the party that supported the national budget that increased GST on food, and you cannot escape that fact. My second point is that obesity is now a national epidemic that really does need to be addressed most urgently. The principle behind this bill is a step in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, I do find it a little backwards that a member of the Maori Party is introducing this bill when she voted for a budget that increased GST on healthy food not 6 months ago. If the Maori Party had the courage of their convictions, they would have voted against National's budget that increased GST on all food from 12.5% to 15%. The Maori Party is also in coalition with the National Party that has done the following. In February 2009, Anne Tolley removed the clause in the National Administration Guideline which states, and I quote, "where food and beverages are sold on school premises to make only healthy options available." This provoked New Zealand Medical Journal headline, "School is back in New Zealand and so is the junk food." May 2009, Tony Rowe removed DHB and Ministry of Health target to reduce obesity in New Zealand. 2009 budget cuts included $32 million over 4 years from Healthy Eating, Healthy Action. Second point, $24 million cut from Diabetes Get Checked. These are only 4 initiatives that have been removed from the national government that is supported by the Maori Party. I know we're not allowed to use the H word, Mr. Speaker, but it comes to mind and I won't. My second point, Mr. Speaker, is that obesity is a disease that is placing enormous strain on our health system. The cost to the nation in terms of lost and suboptimal productivity and health-related illness is staggering and expected to grow. Here are some facts. $500 million, the direct cost of obesity to the health system per annum. $1 billion. World Health Organization estimates the cost of obesity to be from 2% to 7% of a country's healthcare costs. OECD placed New Zealand as the third fattest nation last year. 11% of deaths attributable to obesity. 26.5% of adults are obese. 63.7% of Pacifica adults are obese. 41.7% of Maori adults are obese. 20.9% of children are overweight. Labor has raised the idea of removing GST of fresh fruit and vegetables only, in recognition that we simply cannot have fresh fruit and vegetables out of the reach of a significant proportion of New Zealanders and their families. A study undertaken by the University of Auckland Medical School on the purchase habits of over 1,000 shoppers found that the price elasticity on healthy foods is about 0.85. This means that for every 1% drop in price, there is a corresponding 1% increase in the purchase of healthy food. And in this study, 2/3 of the increase was attributed to fruit and vegetables. So there is merit in investigating this legislation, and will encourage all New Zealanders to eat healthier food. But, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, this legislation is flawed. It is introduced by a member who voted for a budget that increased GST on healthy food. However, as mentioned, the principle behind this bill is right, because obesity is a national epidemic that is costing the country up to $1 billion a year. And this is why we are supporting this bill to Select Committee. Thank you.
Dr. Paul